Welcome, welcome. My name is Aoife, and I am a mind body coach. I mostly help sensitive women to use these incredible tools to break free and heal from chronic pain, chronic illness, anxiety, and depression, and so many more symptoms. I myself had 30 years of these debilitating symptoms, and these are the tools that I used after 3 decades of searching for answers to break free and heal myself. And it's just been an ongoing, incredible journey since then. So I'm super buzzed. Today I have Helmut, who has an incredible YouTube channel, goes by the name of Mindful Gardener, and he's been spreading the word through a lot of fun and good energy about these tools also and his own personal journey of overcoming 70 plus symptoms, which we are going to dive into today and have a really great conversation. So, thank you so much for being here. Is there anything you want to add to your intro?
Thanks for having me. Yeah, my YouTube channel, I'll just try to bring awareness to mind body space and I kind of talk about my hell experience, right? Because I was making exorcisms jealous and I try to bring some lightness to it. Try to make it, a little bit funny. And kind of sit in the trenches with people while they're going through this journey so that they stick to it because it's really, hard to go through this journey and not want to quit, right? So that's my goal, bring awareness, go through all the little things that we go through, right? Not just be general, go, here's my program and just do this and you should be fine. But I like to go through all the little things that you will probably experience along the road, just so I can kind of normalize it so it's not so, daunting and it'll kind of move you through the delays of this hard journey, right? That's my
I
goal.
love that. Yeah, I love that. And I love the work that you do and the energy you bring to that because it's true. It's like you are in the trenches, you're in the shits when you have these symptoms and you don't know
Mm,
what to do about them. And then you find the solution. And even though it does feel magical and miraculous and you can have these incredible breakthroughs and relief, there are so many little nooks and crannies and there
mm,
are so many delays. Like you said, you do the work and you're doing everything right, but there can be a delay with your results. So it's amazing to
yeah.
have your energy cheering people along and just holding space because you've been in that place yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. I know what it's like to, have the doubts come in and do the work and actually feel worse, right? And then not just feel worse the first 6 months, the first year, but actually feel worse at the second year than I did the first year. And right up to the end, to this 2.5 year, 3 year mark, it was like, is there something else wrong? Should I be checking my mitochondria? Should I be doing detox? Maybe my leaky gut, maybe my blood-brain barrier, maybe, did I miss something? Maybe, this is and the setbacks that happen along the way. So yeah, I was in a way it's great because the fear really forces you to learn it, to walk the walk, not just have the theory. Because if we have the theory, technically it'd be like a year. Okay, I'd be done in a year. But I think we need to go through all the second by second hell so you really learn this stuff and have the setbacks and fall on your face and have the freakouts because the freakouts kind of we need to kind of have them. We're human, right? So it kind of builds the platform, which where we end up standing on, and then we start to build leverage slowly over time. So, and in the I needed the full 3 years because there was delays, there was setbacks, there was me still slipping and going to the doctor 3 times a week, even though I was doing the work. Because we're all human, and I think we need those setbacks, we need those freakouts, we need to go through all the imperfections of this journey to really learn it and build the contrast to know what you did wrong so you can do what the right way. So it's hard to do the right thing if you don't do the wrong thing, right?
I absolutely love what you're saying, and I know so many people are going to love this time frame and this detail that you're bringing.
Yeah.
And I really, really, really stand with you on this. Not only is this journey a journey for you back to your soul, which is a unique journey for you. Like I
Hmm.
can hold my clients' hands and I can
Yep.
reassure them and I can big them up and I can give them the tools, but it is always going to be their journey back to them. And it is in those moments that you're describing. Maybe you're like on your knees again and you're but and I always think, it's very commonly used. but the moth, that needs, or the butterfly that needs to come out of the cocoon, and if you like
Yeah.
take the cocoon, it can't fly. But I sometimes actually do this when I'm going through these up levels, I
Yeah,
call them myself. It's
exactly.
like, what's happening? Like you're strengthening your wings, or if you've ever sharpened a
Yeah.
knife, you're sharpening your knife. And
Right.
what that does is it brings you lasting results,
Yes. A
right?
lifestyle, not just doing a program or doing the work or doing oh, I got to do this to get rid of. A lifestyle that also reflects not just on symptoms, but business, relationships, spiritual stuff. This transferable skills that, it's kind of like an awakening. It's kind of a gift in the beginning. So yeah, I'm grateful for this journey, but at the time I wasn't too grateful, of course.
Yeah, of course. And for that, when I still have these I'm on my knees moments when I'm up leveling and growing through my own, moments of growth, then yeah, for sure. Afterwards, I'm like, wow, delighted with my new up level. But when you're in it and you're on
Yeah,
your knees and you're thinking, what's happening right now? You're not so grateful. Um,
right.
yeah.
I've noticed that sometimes people can be triggered when I say it took me 3 years, and they're like, "That's so long. I don't know if I can do three. I don't have time for that." And I usually tell them, actually, 3 years is really f fast. It's lightning speed fast. If you think about all the years you were in the shit show, life curveballs, situations that panned out. Maybe you were with a narcissist or a toxic relationship. Maybe something happened to you as a child or whatever. That all the years that put you in that survival state. For me, it was probably 35 years, right? Drinking, smoking, partying, doing all kinds of things that was not good for my mental health or my body. And my survival state started to climb throughout those years. And then, it took me 3 years to fully recover. That's fast. In a way, it's like telling the body, almost bitch slapping the body, going, "Why aren't you moving fast enough?" When actually it's like it's doing the best it can. It's doing really well. Plus, we're biological, so takes a little time. So that's what I tell people. I'm like, it's actually fast. And in a way, everybody's different. It might take you a year and a half. It might take this person, 4 years. It doesn't really matter as long as you do the work and you found the methods. You're in the mind body space. Be grateful, and it'll take as long as it takes. Right? Enjoy the journey, and yeah, just be grateful that you're doing the work.
100%. I often say at the beginning of my workshops these days is like, back in 2017, I was bedridden and I had been searching for 30 years, like consultants all over the world, healers, like meditation, everything, and like medication, like meditation, whatever, all angles
Yeah.
and corners of the earth. And not one person was able to tell me they had recovered. It was possible to recover. And that was
Right.
such a dark
Yeah.
and grim and scary place to be. But now, look, it's like incredible. All these doctors and just people like you and I who are
Yeah.
sharing that we recovered. And so, like you said, like 3 years is not that much time to consider like what the results actually are. And I always share as well, which is what you're really touching on, is if you had a sat by my bed in 2017 and said, you have one wish, what would you wish for? I would just say these symptoms to be gone, but I would have accepted my life, my relationships, my spiritual evolution, my
Yeah.
finances, all as they were. But what I got has been a complete transformation,
Hmm.
like no stone unturned. And like you said, 3 years is really, even 4 years, it's really not a long time for that level of lasting change in your
Well,
life
it's
and your
it's
body.
well, I understand. Like I've been through. You're surrounded by a lot of bullshit information out there. And we were lucky. We're the unicorns. We were lucky to find that, 1% of information. It's like a needle in a haystack, and we found the way. And of course, you know, maybe 10 years, you found a lot of the wrong information, which I think is important that we did go through it. I think it also helps us to give us the contrast to go, this all makes sense. No wonder why I was trying to fix and do all these protocols, why it wasn't working, why things were getting worse. And it justifies that, yes, this makes sense. And we're surrounded by a lot of misinformation. When you go on Google, any symptom, any one of my one symptoms will say you can't heal it, you can only manage it, get used to it. Like you can't find these answers. YouTube, maybe here and there, but you're just so bombarded. Facebook groups, like
Mm.
most of these Facebook groups are so toxic. They create a different reality. How the hell did we find the 1%? Like that's why I think we're almost picked and chosen. It's almost been given to us as a gift that we're able to, sift through all the garbage and do the work. I think our duty is almost to recover, not just for ourselves, but for us to do the work to bring awareness for everybody else. So it's kind of interesting how, you're kind of forced to dig deep into your soul, into the spiritual realm, to get you to cross that invisible bridge because everything around you is lying. Even your symptoms are lying, right? How does somebody with 70 symptoms and everywhere they go, they try all the supplements and everything, how do they have the knowing that you're gonna recover and get through this, right? With that little light that's inside of you that you have to reach to make that everything to get you across that bridge. And well, we did it. We're doing it, right? And we're sharing it so that everybody else can do it. And we're going to give them a little bit more. We're going to tell them all the bullshit that we went through so that they don't have to as much and get them kind of moving forward. So it's good to have these interviews, right? To bring the awareness. Sure, it might seem woo woo, but I think it's going to catch on. Normally, this should be normalized. This shouldn't be considered woo woo. This should be something that everybody goes to first before they do any of the other forms of treatments. That's what I think. And I think in time, hopefully, it'll be, we'll be able to bring so much awareness that it'll be more common knowledge and we'll be able to help a lot more people. So that's the goal.
I have goosebumps listening to you. I often think the same thing that you're thinking, like, oh, everything that you said, but particularly what was in me that was so determined to heal.
Mm.
Nothing, like not one person in my entire life. In fact, not only had they not like said I could heal, they told me I couldn't.
Oh,
And in such
friends?
great in such great detail. And they're people of authority and prestige and the best child pediatrician in Ireland. And
Yeah.
they all told me repeatedly throughout my whole entire life how doomed I was and how not to trust myself. And
Yep.
I did all the detoxes and gut healing and leaky this and read all the books and everything. So when
Mhm.
people come to me and they say they're worn out with everything that hasn't worked, like you, I also say this is the contrast that's going to help you. Like it's like a muscle almost. But yeah,
It's
what
like
was
initiation. You have to go through the bullshit in a way to finally wake up,
right?
right?
But I remember walking, I was pacing, like this was like dire straight. I could barely eat any food. I was really, really thin. I was terrified of food. I had no answers. And people wanted to like lock me up in a psychiatric hospital. Like it was dark. And I was pacing up and down my kitchen. And I was just saying, I just kept saying, this isn't good enough for me. I don't
Mhm.
accept any of this. Like
Yeah.
what in me? Like I had no strength, like physical
Yeah.
strength what in me was saying there is definitely a way, and my friends and everyone was saying just give up, just give up, just give up. And no, yeah,
Yeah.
that light was in us, and I appreciate that.
Yeah. I remember times where I was walking down the hallways holding my head screaming for God to help me, right? And me watching myself do this, go, look what your life's come to. You're down the hall screaming. That's not like you. You'd never done this before. You used to judge people that did that and go, why don't you just like it's all in their head? What's wrong with? And now you are the freak. Now you're the one with all these symptoms. Now you can't eat food, right? Like that's so weird. Nobody understands it. Doctors don't understand it. Friends don't understand it, right? Even your parents, your wife, right? You are literally looked at as a freak. It's all in your head, and they don't give you much compassion. They don't understand. They actually kick you when you're down. That's what I noticed. A lot of my friends, I had to cut them out because first of all, they say, "Well, what are you doing? What kind of program? Oh, that's not right. You got to do this. That doesn't sound any like the right thing to do." So you get more doubt. It sabotages your journey. So I had to start cutting people out, create a bubble in the beginning, just so that I could do the work and not listen to everybody's all the noise. So I had to lie and say, "Oh, I'm dealing with some anxiety because of what we're dealing with COVID. So I need some time. I got to unplug." And people are like, "Oh, okay, we can." I'm like, "I need your support with this, right?" I have to manipulate them. And they're like, "Okay, yeah, yeah, no problem, man. Whenever you're ready, I'm here for you." I'm like, "Thank you. I really appreciate it. Love you, man." Right? Because if I would have went like, you're too toxic, you're making me sick, and my mind, body, I'm brain retraining, and see, there's my baseline, right? If they heard you say that, they'd be like, okay, this guy's a right. They'll just feed you. No, dude, you're doing it wrong. No, trust me, I have anxiety. What you're dealing with is just anxiety. Trust me, right? And they make you feel like you are crazy, and what you're feeling isn't significant. So I had to keep it a secret. I had to learn to keep my journey a secret because people will, even if they're even your own family, will drop bombs on you and derail you, right? Friends, family, whatever you got. So family, I had to keep at a distance because you can't really cut them out because they're family. And then friends, uh, I had to manipulate them. And in time, this is where you go, you know what? It's because when you feel any symptoms, you're really sensitive. You become like a radar and you start to realize, oh, fuck, this person isn't good for my life. Even if I get better, you know what? I'm going to cut them out. This is forces you to see. And then you finally make those life changes because we don't want to just recover and be back to the same person we were before with less symptoms. We want to make those life changes that we're able to live a long, healthy, thriving life, for as long as possible. Make this a lifestyle. So things come up and you start making these hard choices and start cutting the people out. And not just the people, but you go through all the things in your life, all the TV shows that you watch, the Facebook groups that you're involved in, politics, news, the mental diet part. You have to go through. You're forced to go through it all and decide. Is this really gonna be good for me, healthy for me? Because obviously it's not. Because look at where I am.
Totally. And it's funny how you describe like how you kept it a secret. And
Hmm.
I did this also in a different way. I started to use very different language so that people couldn't connect with me over my symptoms anymore. And I get
Yeah,
my clients to do this too. So you kind of neutralize what
yeah,
used to be a very charged interaction, especially I would, if I mentioned my symptoms, it was always, like you said, like unsolicited advice or people getting involved or emotional response with the friends and family who are,
yeah.
love and care about you or whatever, or have opinions either way. But so yeah, I started to use this like very neutral language about where I was at, what I was up to, and what I was
Good.
experiencing, even if, like you said, like when you start this journey, symptoms can change and get worse in ways. And even though it was visibly like things going on for me, I had like neutralized how I communicated with people about that. And that created a
Hmm.
bubble for me.
Yeah,
Um, and like you said, you do become so sensitive. And I was born into this world an incredibly highly sensitive person.
yeah.
And right. And but we're born into a world that values insensitivity and values invulnerability, right?
Oh, yeah. Culturally,
Right.
also, right?
Culturally.
Like
Exactly.
my parents were hard asses. My dad's German, old school. My mom's Mexican, old school. So for me, like, it was weird for me to hug my mom and tell her I loved her. We just didn't do that shit. I loved her, but we didn't tell her that. So it was kind of hard edge, hardcore type of love, tough love type of thing. So yeah, totally. I understand that.
Totally, right? And like it was like, the less vulnerable and the less sensitive you seemed, the like cooler you were and the more you were like praised or you're the cool kid
Yeah.
in school or whatever, right?
Hmm.
Um and so I had to build up these walls and become and like numb everything out and gaslight
Yeah.
myself. And like you said,
Yeah.
so when you start to do this unpacking or this, like resolving of many of those mechanisms and these coping mechanisms and these
Yeah.
masks that you've put on, then you start to really feel in your body like, wow, how was I tolerating that before? How was I? Yeah,
Yeah.
sitting in front of this violent TV show for like hours, like on edge. You don't even
Yeah.
or drink. Like I used to drink and party so much and
Yeah.
not realize because I was so numbed out. So it does bring you just back into this like very aligned, intuitive space with yourself, which calls upon you to have like harder conversations that
Yeah.
I never would have had the kind of conversations I have these days with people
Yeah. You
because they're
change as a
like,
person. You literally change, right? I started going, you know what? I don't want to cut this person out necessarily just because they're maybe toxic, but I just don't vibe with them anymore. I'm not interested in the same things that they are anymore. I just don't do those things that I used to do. I'm shifting, becoming a different person. I'm vibrating differently. And you'll notice that when you start to move up with your life and you vibrate higher, you're going to start having people dislike you. It's gonna feel like you're just not jiving with them anymore. So it's time to move on and cut them out. And it's a good thing. You're growing spiritually, mentally, everything.
Totally. And so I know that people, like I said to you before we jumped on this call, I know that
Yep.
people really love specific symptoms. So
Hmm.
I get a lot of people, they want to hear about their specific symptoms. So I get a
Yeah.
lot of people come to me and they're like, well, what about this? Even a friend last night, I was at an astrology workshop and she was like, but what about this symptom? And I was like, you know what's so interesting is so a lot of my symptoms were not mentioned when I started this journey. It was like back pain, it was this and this, like three
Yeah.
things or something that are mind body. But I decided just out of my own, that little light that was in me, I decided to apply it to everything. So I
Yeah.
listened to all the back pain stuff, but I never had back pain in my life. I just applied it to
Yeah.
my own
Right.
symptoms, right? But some people really like the reassurance to know that like one of their like
Yeah.
symptoms that they're tormented by someone else's experience. So I know you've had so many symptoms. So if you want to like get
I'll
into
try to
like
remember.
naming some of them, yeah.
I'll try to remember the meat potatoes because I think it's important to get specific with symptoms. I know there's other channels that avoid it because it's too triggering, but I'm like, it's worth it if it's gonna help you, right? So from what I remember, it was a lot of anxiety, tachycardia, my heart rate. This has happened like a light switch went off. Well, first of all, I had ulcerative colitis for 5 years. Um, Diverticulitis. I had to go a lot of gut shit, right?
Mm.
IBS, food sensitivities. Eventually, like after I had, I think the last drop that broke the camel toe was my diverticulitis surgery. I had a diverticulitis surgery, and all of a sudden, symptoms just like overnight they came out of nowhere, like a light switch went off. And of course, I'm like, what the hell's going on? Like, what? Like, all of a sudden, I'm eating food, I'm reacting to everything, and I went from being a foodie to eating everything to having two to three safe foods. So I was only able to eat rice, beef, and eventually apples. And all the other foods are off the table now, right? The brain's like, we're not letting anything in, we're letting everything out, and he's up to capacity because his baseline's up to the roof, right? He's up to capacity. We can't handle all this shit. We got to keep him alive, so we're gonna give him some sensitivities, right? So I had a histamine sensitivity. I had every sensitivity when it came to food, and I was reacting constantly to foods, and it was putting me into a survival. I was stuck in a survival, and I was having impending doom thoughts, insomnia, uh, relentless anxiety, panic attacks. I swear I was in a constant panic for 3 months, and my resting heart rate was like 120 constantly. I'm like laying in bed. I'm like, what the fuck, man? Why am I at 120? Like, I'm normally my normal heart rate's at like 65. Like, what's going on? So I was in the hospital 3 times a week, right, getting checked all the time because I didn't know what's going on. They got annoyed with me. They knew who I was. They're like, oh, here he comes, right? How I felt. And they kept telling me, okay, this is not an emergency, sir, right? If you have anything, you need to go to make an appointment with your doctor because this, you're taking time and space away from others that people that really need it. I'm like, but I really think I'm dying. Like, what the hell? So, dealing with a lot of anxiety, PTSD, OCD, looping thoughts, second by second, I was looping on thoughts. I had a safe room where I was just pacing, like you mentioned. I was pacing back and forth, a lot, trying to figure out, trying to um, resist my thoughts. So what resist persists. That just made things worse. What else? Gastritis, all the gut issues, right? And this is where I had to stop looking in the toilet because every time I looked in the toilet, it was a nightmare. It sparked my catastrophizing. Um, what else? So yeah, a lot of mental stuff, food sensitivities, mast cell activation syndrome, multiple chemical sensitivity. So all of a sudden, I started reacting to smells and fabrics and everything I was reacting to. It seemed like everything, sounds, right? I was literally my eyesight. When I look at my mom's face, her face started just distorting. I started hearing things. I started feeling things like phantom things on my skin. My voice, I could barely talk longer than 2 minutes because it would just give out. I was like literally a survival trembling shit show, right? With 75 plus symptoms. I just didn't know what you call these other symptoms. I'd have times where all of a sudden my right side of my body would go very weak and my speech started to slur. and my hand would be going like this, and it felt like I was having a stroke, right? I'm like, am I having a stroke? Oh my fuck, right? And my hand, this side fast, this side was like slow, and I was like, holy fuck! It felt like all of a sudden my storage in my brain got full, and everything was just moving like buffering, and right. Um, and that's scary when you first experience these symptoms for the first time. Brain fog, right? Derealization, back pain, of course, all kinds of weird pains. Um, the insomnia, chronic fatigue. I had chronic fatigue syndrome only for 8 months, but during that time, I thought there was something wrong with my heart because I'm walking from here to there, and it felt like I just ran 5 kilometers, right? I felt like a 99-year-old man just because I walked from here to here. Like those are a lot of the symptoms. I'm trying to think of what else. Yeah, the gastritis. Uh, oh, pelvic floor pain was relentless. I had the IC, the bladder pain. I had uh, my tailbone hurt. My rectum was hurting. There came a time where all of a sudden I couldn't poop. Not because I was constipated, because my pelvic floor was so tight, it was like a wall came up. I'm like, how am I going to poop? What the hell am I going to, right? And then I had to use this procedure where I used a finger cot with coconut oil, and I had to get in there and open it so it would ease out. So I had to help it, and that became part of my life routine for a year and a half, doing these things. And I just like, we'll just, I didn't overanalyze it. Eventually, I'm like, whatever, as long as I can poop, let's do this. Blah blah blah. Became my routine. Pelvic floor pain, stabbing pains in my bladder that radiated to my testicles and my anus, right? And not knowing what to do. So I had to use coping mechanisms in the beginning. Even though I know some of the mind body spaces, they frown upon doing work or doing any sort of coping mechanisms or avoidance behaviors. But in my case, for me to do the work, so I didn't go crazy, I had to use avoidance behaviors and coping managing uh, mechanisms just so that I could, think clearly. So I did the stretches, I did the work behind the scenes, I did my visuals, I did my elevating, I allowed the symptoms to be there. I did all those things just so that, I was doing the work, but at the same time, I used what I had to just so I can not go crazy. I'm trying to think what other symptoms I had. It's hard to remember them because after you move on, your brain goes, not important anymore. But that was like the gist of it. And I'm sure while we keep talking, something else will come up. I go, oh yeah, yeah, I remember that. So pain moved around, mental alarms, a lot of food sensitivity problems, gut issues, and poop stuff. What else? That's the gist of it.
A lot of the things you're sharing, I can also relate to. And
Yeah.
what you're describing ultimately is when you get to this place of like your day, your moment to moment throughout the day is you're living in an impossible way. Like
Yeah.
the level of management that you need between food and pooping and fabrics, like that's how
Yeah.
I was also living. Just to get through a day where I didn't even go to work or leave my room, it
Yeah.
was like a large scale operation.
Yeah.
And it's just like an impossible and a miserable way to live. And also, like, when you look at you now, like you're just glowing and shiny, you have so much to give. And it's just like such a sad way to live, also, too, right? So,
Yeah, it's crazy how long we've come that I'm able to talk about these symptoms freely with a view of like a curious observer, and it doesn't affect me anymore. But during that time, I could not dare even talk about the symptoms. It was like my trauma, right? And even hear somebody else talk about symptoms just floored me, delayed me for 2 weeks. I would ruminate, blah blah blah. But it's good to also bring up the fact that, well, look at us now, right? We actually forget about our symptoms. Can you believe that? And at the time when you're going through it, you're like, how is it possible that people are able? I don't believe that you can forget, like that the brain you're going to forget. Really, I can't, because you think this is going to be your world forever. You can't even imagine unplugging from that thought because it feels so intense and it is real, right? But eventually, you will get to a point where you're going to forget and you're going to be free, and your thoughts are going to be like quiet, where you're going to actually be able to be in the present moment with nothing, hijacking you or being intrusive or getting you to loop, where you can actually literally just look at this thing and go, oh, this is interesting. And only that thing, and being and really absorb all there is. Like that's gonna happen eventually. You're gonna be there eventually, but in the during the journey, I know it doesn't feel like that.
I also support what you said about how you supported yourself. You called it avoidant behavior, but or
Yeah,
something like that. But I support my clients to like I call it taking the edge off things. If you have
yeah,
something that you takes the edge off things for you, like use it alongside what you're already doing. And I just really support like not making people feel wrong or bad or like it's gonna slow down
yeah,
their like ultimately you showing yourself love and softness and compassion and coming out of like rigidity into
mhm,
flexibility, that's always going to get you there. So I really love that you shared that. And so
yeah,
tell us a little bit then about like your breakthrough, like what happened, and was it just the information, was it a tool, like how did it all
yeah.
dawn?
Okay, so I did a lot of the wrong things for many years because this is my second perfect storm. The first perfect storm, I had 20 symptoms and then somehow I was able to manage it and get back to life. This time, I think it was on purpose that I had to really fall hard so I could really learn these tools. This time it was, the 70 whatever symptoms. And somehow, I don't know, this is why I think we were chosen. One of my many groups that I join on Facebook, the toxic groups, one person mentioned, "Oh, I'm able to eat 11 foods. I'm doing this thing called DNRS brain retraining." I'm like, 11 foods. Oh, that'd be so amazing, right? I was just willing just to have that and be content with my life. So I saw her post and then her post got blocked, whatever, but I was still able to reach out to her and I asked him like, what is this thing that you're talking about? She's like, "Oh, it's brain retraining." And and she didn't really understand it, and neither did I. So I went and looked it up, did the program, signed up. I didn't believe in it. I didn't because I didn't get it. I'm like, how does a neural pathway get people to stop having diseases? Like, what is it? Just bypass the disease and just goes, "Here, you're healthy now," and then the disease just goes like this. Okay, like, does it? How does a food sensitivity go away? Like, I didn't get it at all, and but I was like, fuck it. I saw all the success stories, and all these people had what I had, so I'm like, this is the best. This is gold. I'm gonna do it, right? Yeah. And so I started doing the work. At this time, I was just getting out of being bedridden. And I never went outside at that time, but I just started doing the program. Started, going. I don't know. I'll just do it. I'll just do it. Whatever. I was still talking to naturopaths. I was still going down some rabbit holes. Still going to the hospital 3 times a week. But eventually, I started seeing evidence of change. I started seeing physical symptoms starting to go away, and I started feeling a little bit better over the months. And I'm like, okay. And then I started also, in the meantime, you're educating yourself, you're talking to other people in the community, and then you're seeing other people that are healed, and it gives you more evidence and confidence that, you can do it too. And so most of these people that I talked to had what I was having, right? So then I realized, you know what I can do? I'm going to stick to this. So, um, so I stuck to it for about 8 months, doing the work religiously, right? Every day, never missed a day. And then I noticed this is where I got stuck. I noticed that the more I healed physically, right, the more my mental alarm started to skyrocket. And I was like, why am I going crazy? I have phobias all of a sudden. I'm looping thoughts. My physical stuff's pretty good. It's like 70% good. I went from, 0 to 70%. All right. But now this just skyrocketed to chaos. So the brain retraining at that time was not helping me with that area. It was kind of avoiding it. It was kind of like the OCD elephant in the room that they're not really talking about. And I noticed other people were stuck in the same situation as me. So then I started, and again, I look on the forum, somebody talked about their success story and they talked about how they were stuck. I'm like, oh, perfect timing. So then I reached out to them. I'm like, so what did you do? How did you get unstuck? What did you, right? And they talked about how they had to jump ship, which was triggering for me. I didn't want to jump ship because it means like this was the way. And now you're telling me I have to try to open a new can of worms. I don't know if I can do that. That to me was dangerous. But then, she mentioned all the symptoms she had was like what I had. The proof was there. The brain goes, there's my evidence. So I said, okay, I'm gonna try this other methods, these other approaches. So then I jumped ship, started doing them, and it was a missing piece. For me, it was instead of redirecting, distraction, of avoiding my thoughts, resisting them because what you resist persists. all it did when I did that was it started to make the alarms go bigger, bigger, and bigger and bigger, right? And it brought more loads onto my allostatic loads, started to fill up more. My baseline went into survival more because I'm having an inner battle trying to figure out, fix, analyze, ruminate and loop on these thoughts. So it brought my state into more of a survival state. So my baseline started to climb up more. And then when the baseline goes up, it sends more alarms. So I had more symptoms. So I started to realize that, and I started to allow all the thoughts, all the feelings, all the symptoms, all the ugliness that was there. I had to learn to sit in the fear, let it do its thing, and not white knuckle or survive through it. Because if you survive through it, you're telling the brain that yes, we are in danger, and it keeps that alarm on. So I had to, in a way, surrender through all the ugliness. And of course, in the beginning, it's hard. You're gonna fail, right? It's gonna suck. But eventually, I was able to do it because it takes time and fully be allowing these symptoms and thoughts and feelings and to be started to become my friends, right? All these symptoms, thoughts, and feelings became a part of my routine every day. And I was just doing the work. I had the setbacks, the doubts, of course, but I just kept allowing them, letting them do their thing and introducing the new program of ease, right? And allowing the old program of dis-ease and resistance to play itself out and let it die out. So that's what I had to do. Allow it, let it do its thing. And in time, things just, right? I was updating the program here and everything just kind of regulated. And I started also looking into the Dare Response. It's an anxiety app. And I was like, well, you took an anxiety app. How does this, we're dealing with 75. How does an anxiety app help? But then I noticed that a lot of the teachings just for anxiety are used, just like you mentioned about you used it for back pain, for everything. I did the same thing with the anxiety, the OCD. I worked on that, and that was regulating everything across the board. So I used the same methods if I got a new symptom, right? If I had a stabbing pain or some bowel issue or whatever it is that was coming up daily, I was using exposure, allowing, letting it do its thing, and then engaging in life and sticking to my routine. I was prepared. I had my schedule laid out. I had my a few post-it notes for every day that you because the daily stuff is a little different than the weekly stuff. And I stuck to my routine. I was also being aware of old behavior patterns, right? Body checking, checking my heart rate, my blood pressure, also checking too much my temperature, right? And all the other things like speaking danger while we're in a danger. Instead, we should be speaking safety while we're in the danger. You want to send a message of safety while you're in danger. So I had to catch who I'm talking to. Am I talking to Sally about my symptoms? Am I going, oh my God, it's so horrible? And it hurts so much, even when you're by yourself. Are you talking about your symptoms out hard and how you're never going to recover? What's your mental diet like? Are you going down these Facebook groups, rabbit holes, Googling constantly? Um, right? Do you have your toxic friends that are also sidetracking you? Bad work environment. Are you in a toxic relationship? Like I had to go through everything in my life and my behaviors and going, oh yeah, I'm talking about symptoms a lot. Oh yeah, I'm resisting my thoughts. I'm avoiding them. Every time a thought came that I didn't like, I try to find something else to look at. Maybe it's like, oh, I got to look at this and distract, distract, distract. And I had to catch that shit, not just catch it on a Tuesday once, but I had to catch it every time it was happening and go, oh, you know what? Is this going to help my recovery journey? Probably not. So maybe I should get out of that Facebook group. Maybe I should stop using my pendulum 1,000 times. I was using one of these 50 times a day just to get the reassurance, right? Because it became something that I was latching onto just so I could function. But I was like, every time I do that, I'm just reaffirming that I'm looking for safety, so I must be in the danger. So we're keeping the alarms on. So this was all the things I had to do with being aware of old behavior patterns, sticking to a routine, getting out in nature and going for walks, doing my visuals, elevating every day. And my visuals were hard in the beginning, but what do you expect when you're in a survival state? You're not going to really flow with the visuals because your gate's closed, you're in survival. Elevating. I didn't like dancing. I felt like I was going to cry or puke while I was dancing. But in a way, I had to fake it till I make it. And eventually, when I did the work, it started to catch up. And then I actually enjoyed the visuals. I actually enjoyed to go for my walks. I actually enjoyed doing my elevating. And it took time to get there, but eventually I started enjoying the work. And then it didn't feel like it was work anymore because then you start noticing things are shifting, you start feeling better, and then you're like, oh, it's a matter of time. As long as I do the work, the brain will have no choice but to change. And that's what happens. The only thing I was dealing with near the end that was horrible was the setbacks are really intense. They really test you. And you know what? I had to realize that there were all opportunities to update the alarm system. So I had to think of it that way. And I also had to understand that just because I'm doing the work here and I feel like shit does not mean I'm not recovering, right? We're paving the road over here while we do the work over here. So eventually, in time, you will feel the effects and instantly feel good. But now, right, in a way, I had to learn to be uncomfortable with my symptoms and think of them as all as opportunities. Because if you don't have them, you're not opening that door. You're keeping that door closed. So there's no opportunity there for change. So I had to picture it. Okay, every time I open that door, I'm gonna feel the chaos behind that door of the old program. So think of it as opportunities. You need them, right? You need the symptoms. You need to feel like shit. You need to be triggered in order to change the association so you can update the programming. Because I learned that and I moved on from it. But I know with clients and people that sometimes they make comments, they're like, yeah, but I'm triggered. Yeah, but then I feel horrible. But then I lose sleep. But then I feel like, and I'm like, yes. Yeah, but then I'm triggered though. Yes, that's what you want. Okay, but then I don't feel good. It's horrible. It's really hard. Yes, you need it to be like that in order to move forward. And it's kind of like a little bit of a learning curve that kind of clicks. So it's like, so I need to feel like shit. So when I do this allowing thing, why am I not feeling better? I'm like, well, you're not going to feel better right away. Number one, and don't do the allowing as a weapon to get rid of what you don't want because just reaffirming we're getting rid of what? We're getting rid of danger. This is where you gotta, allow something and not look to see if it's gone. You have to allow it with no strings attached, right? No small print. Fully allow it to be there and do its thing, right? And even go, you know what? I want you to be here for the next month. You better be here every day, right? Insomnia or that pain that's over here or whatever it is. I want you to be here every day. So we really want to take the resistance away. So it gets to the point where the insomnia, you slept 8 hours and you're like, you should almost get pissed off and go, whoa, 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 whoa. We didn't agree on that. I thought we agreed that you're going to be here every fucking day, right? So we're fully taking away the resistance because when we take the resistance away, the baseline can finally calm down, right? And then the brain goes, okay, with the exposure, it finally turns off the alarms. And that's what I had to do every day, second by second. It was a fucking shit show. It was a nightmare. I was making exorcisms jealous, right? This work is hard. It sucks. But as long as you do it, here's the catch. As long as you do it, you will shift through it and you will recover. But the journey from here to here, don't expect relief. Don't expect to feel, clouds parting and to feel normal. Expect a roller coaster of hell, right? It's supposed to be like that. So keep that in mind. Get prepared for it because I like to prepare people for it. For when it happens, they don't get too delayed. They don't go, oh my God, I'm missing something, right? They go, oh yeah, this is supposed to happen. Oh, okay. All right. So they kind of move through it a little bit quicker. And we need to go through all the bullshit along the journey. And that's what I had to do second by second, sitting in the trenches. And one of the things that helped me know that I was going to recover was surrounding myself with a few people that recovered, right? Having that evidence on the sidelines and me asking them questions once in a while, not every day, 50 times, right? I had to be mindful of that and not bug them too much. But once in a while, go, did you feel this? Okay. All right. A little bit of reassurance. Okay. Okay. Is this normal? Do you find that when you do this, this happens? And so you kind of share, you kind of educate each other even, right? They actually learn stuff from you while you learn something from them. But they're mostly there for the evidence that keep going because this is the outcome, right? Instead of surrounding yourself with people that are just doubting you and saying that maybe there's something else wrong. I think that was one of the biggest things for me. Number one is to stick to the work. Number two is having people on the sidelines that I could ask just so that I stay on the path. Because a lot of people, I know you're going to want to quit. You're going to want to get off the path. And for me, I try to get people to stay on because if it takes a year, it might take 2 years. people, it's there's a big percentage that people will want to come off the path because there's so many things that are going to be like, well, what about right for the 3 years that people might want to quit or go on a wrong path. So I had to stick to that one path, do the work, do the routine, have these people on the sidelines to keep me there. And then eventually, symptoms started to go away. And then I had to get back into the swing of life, which is another, level of healing where symptoms do come back because you're going back to work, you're going out with friends again, you're watching the news again, you're eating all the foods, and then you work through that, and then you're fully recovered, symptoms are gone, and then you might, for right now, I'm just doing the deeper work, seeing what else is in the shadow that I haven't thought of, right? Because during the time I couldn't dig for a trauma, I couldn't do anything because I was too sensitive. That's like putting gasoline on the fire. So I had to recover first, just deal with whatever the brain was going to send me on a platter. That's all I did. Whatever the brain sent me, that's what I worked on. I didn't do any extra digging. And then when I was, fully recovered, then I'm like, well, I can now, if I want to, I can do a little digging here and there and be curious about it, and I can handle it. I'm at a stage now, and this is what I'm doing. Like with life, I'm like, curious about this, curious about that. I'm moving, deeper with spirituality, making more deep connections. So I'm still doing my visuals. I still do my, well, I should be doing my elevating more, but I still do my visuals, right? Every day. Haven't missed a day in 4.5 years. Um, and this stuff is great for all aspects of your life, right? Spirituality, business, relationships, and maintaining that lifestyle because life's going to keep throwing us curveballs. So that's where I'm at now. I'm feeling pretty good. Symptoms are gone. I'm free to live my life, but I'm sure there's little things here and there that I'm going to explore and see what happens.
Wow, I love every single word that you shared and how detailed in your journey, and I can relate to all of it. And
Yeah.
I love how you were describing the symptoms as these doors that you open. And I myself and Anna
Mhm.
Holtzman have been calling them portals. Like it's
Yeah.
a portal, and as you open the door, it's all these things, this stuff waiting for you to move through and to learn from, so
Mhm.
you can get to the next level or whatever. But
Yeah.
also what you were touching on is like when you're moving through the trenches and yeah, just how hard it is and so many people pulling you back. Let's say like it's like you're leaving the matrix, right? And there's so many
Yeah.
reasons to go back into this world that kept you safe, even if it's getting love through symptoms or someone caretaking you, or if it's just the way that you've related to yourself and the world around you and the people around you. It has been what has kept you alive to this point. So
Yeah.
moving through that portal, opening that door is terrifying. And I
Yeah.
continue to open. I'm like, what door is next? Bring it on. Like, I'm like, go tearing through those doors to see what's on the other side. But every time it's
Yeah.
terrifying. It's terrifying because you are leaving a world that has kept you alive at some point, but you've gotten to a
Mhm.
point where you're like, I don't even care. I don't know what is on the other side of that door, but I literally can't do one more second of whatever this is. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna go for it. And you walk through the door, and it does take so much courage and kind of just
Yeah.
like the relentlessness that you're describing, just showing up second by second. It really takes that because you
Yeah.
just want to like collapse back into the world. You're like, okay, fine, I'll just go back and just like maybe it's easier, but you just can't. Like that light that's inside you that got you going in the
Mhm.
first place is like, no, bitch, you just keep walking
Yeah.
like one more step.
Yes. It's like we got nothing else. We got to do this. And I told myself, I don't care if I don't feel better in the next 10 years. I'm sticking to this no matter what. That's it. And I was a guy that was not very motivated. I was lazy. But you know what? The fear was my friend. It was the thing that was keeping me, it's forcing me to stay on track. And it was forcing me to learn all the bullshit. And I'm happy that fear was there to push me.
Yeah, it pushes you to change for sure.
Yeah.
And also that kind of like when you start to care less, or like you said, like befriend your symptoms, like you talked about the insomnia, because that was a huge symptom for me for a long time. And I
Yeah.
would wake up in the morning and I would count how tired, I would gauge how tired I was, how much I slept, right? All that obsession. So when that started to
Yeah.
ease off and I like still wasn't sleeping, but I really didn't care. And
Yeah.
that's when things are really loosening up. And when you just like you stop counting. And that point where I stopped counting if I was 70% better or 90%. I remember I
Right.
was 70% better, I was obsessed. I'm 77 percent better. It's been 2 years and so months. So how many more months and times a minute
Yeah,
will it
yeah, I
be?
did that.
And then you're like counting, and then you're like, at one point you're just like, no one's counting anymore. Like,
Yeah, yeah. I had a timeline and everything. I'm like, it should take me blah 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 blah. I had a book and everything. And you know what? It's weird because I looked at it after. I actually met all the timelines pretty close by like a couple of months I was off. So, whatever. That was good.
that was good. Yeah. Well, it
Yeah.
doesn't happen for most people, I'm sure.
Yeah,
But either way, it doesn't matter because at some point you just stop counting, you just stop caring, and
yeah.
you realize this is so much bigger than your symptoms. You
Yeah.
realize something much far bigger is happening to me right now. That doesn't need a timeline. That
Yeah.
doesn't require, it's greater than any timeline. It's like bigger and richer. And then that's where your kind of thoughts and energy are more like you described, like that you're kind of searching for shadow parts and deeper
Yeah.
spiritual parts of yourself, and it just becomes the focus is different, your thinking is different because you did all those hours, you put the time in, you put hours into
Yeah.
to really shake things up within your
Right.
own world.
This is where this is where I think I know that with the word doing the work or program or steps is a dirty word in the TMS world. But for me, I'm like, if you're dealing with, you can't just dial down the fear and go ahead and live life. Because try doing that with 70 symptoms and OCD looping thoughts. You're just asking for troubles. You can't just go ahead, eat the pizza, right? Go, no, it's okay. Go ahead to eat the pizza. You can't just eat the pizza if you have food sensitivities, right? It takes time to get there. And that's why steps and a program and a path is important for us to just follow so we can kind of release some of the right? Because if you're just walking through life, try that with OCD looping thoughts. You're going to get hijacked. The brain's going to win. It has to win. That's its job, right? It needs to get your attention to focus to the ligers that are in the room. Because if it didn't do its job, that could be a risk that you're going to actually be eaten by a liger. So if you're dealing with more than one or two symptoms, having a program, there is work to be done, right? We need to bring down the empty the buckets and bring down the baseline from survival because you know that's what got us all these symptoms. They manifest. Something's got to give, right? The body keeps a score. We've been pulling 747 for so long. We've been in a lot of curveballs throughout our life. So, right, when you're out to sea and you're lost, like if you're lost at sea, you need to have that lighthouse to bring you back to shore. And this is why, for me, it's essential to have steps. It's essential to have a routine. It's essential to have work that you do every day. You are an Olympian. Yes, there's steps. Yes, you're working towards something, but eventually you're gonna you're gonna be able to be more free. You're gonna be able to become your own guide, where you don't need that program anymore. Where you got the methods. You're flowing now. You know the way forward, and you just stay on the journey and do it. But I think for me, it's important and I do this with everybody I work with. I'm like, you need steps. You need to do the
Mhm.
work, right? You need a path. Sorry. And then some TMS people don't like hearing that. Like, I'm surprised, Helmut, that you would say that. I thought maybe you'd be. I'm like, no, no, no. This I firmly believe there is work to do. And I know some people don't want to open that can of worms because it's like, oh fuck, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to open that. Oh, what work now? Like fuck, right? And a lot of TMS people are like, no, don't. You don't need to. Just go ahead and live life. Eat that pizza, right? And just dial down the fear. Like, good luck with that. Let's see if that works. See how long that works for you. For me, I had to do work, and I had to be. Here's another thing. I had to be consistent and strict, and this is the dirty word. I had to be hard on myself. And a lot of people are like, no, don't be hard on yourself. You need to self-soothe. Take if you have a hard day, it's okay. Take it easy. No, you need to be because I notice if you give in to the hard day, one day, all of a sudden it turns to 2 days, 3 days, and then you get back to the old programming. You're stuck again. For me, I had to be like, right? I had to be the eye of the tiger, right? Rocky Four, right? Adrian, we got to move forward. I had to keep doing the work. I had to like be hard on myself. I'd be like, oh shit, like so I'm not doing my maybe I should put my hour together when I'm doing my visuals. I should maybe tweak this, tweak that. Like I'd have a meeting with myself in my car. I'm like, I got to tweak this. I noticed that, yeah, I can improve on that. And you know what? That pressure of trying to do it, be hard on yourself. There is pressure, right? Your baseline does move up a bit. You do get into a bit of a more survival state because you're so hard on yourself. Yes, there is. You might actually get some more symptoms because of that. You might actually feel a little bit worse because of that. But honestly, that's still just a short term thing. Sure, it might go up a little bit. The fire might be burning a little bit more, but it pays off in the long term, right? That hard work and being a little bit hard on yourself pays on in the long term because you're sticking to that path, right? You're being hard on yourself to stick to that path, and eventually it'll all regulate itself and you'll ease up. Eventually you'll ease up and go, all right, now we got this, the method, just do this, and it works. So I think it's really important for me, in my experience, and I see it with others too, that you need the steps, you need the lighthouse when you're lost at sea. Because try living life and just, living life and dial down the fear when you're dealing with relentless OCD looping thoughts. You're gonna get sidetracked and you're gonna get sucked down a rabbit hole.
For sure. And it's, I mean, it's like learning a new language, it's facing deep parts of yourself. There's so much
Yeah,
going on. So whatever container that you can find that can help you with that repetition, like a few
yeah,
simple things. I'm like obsessed. I like being lazy. So like a few simple things that you can just completely like focus on like that.
yeah,
And then I like to think also like it's a bit of a dance between this like really like knowing when to push yourself and like give
yeah.
yourself a kick up
Sweet
the
spot.
hole. And that sweet spot of when, and because the part of the reason we have these symptoms in the first place, we're out of our bodies, we're numbed out, we've lost trust in ourselves. So building that trust again, knowing like, no, I
Yeah,
can push myself now or I can ease up. So I love that
yeah,
sweet spot, like you said. So we've been chatting for ages and we could probably chat for another few hours, but for the sake of everyone else's sanity,
yeah,
let's wrap it up. And
yep,
yeah, if there's anything that you would like to share, I'm going to leave all your details. People can get in touch with you,
yep.
find your amazing YouTube channel and your Instagram. And yeah, if there's anything, final thoughts or tools or anything that you want to share.
I would say just stick to it no matter what. Don't give up. And no, just because you feel like shit doesn't mean you're not moving forward because you're gonna feel like shit, guaranteed. So get used to it. Um, Especially if it's at the 1 year mark, 2 year mark, 3 year mark. That doesn't mean anything. Just keep going, and all of a sudden you'll start to see the evidence, and you'll start to realize, oh, I'm going in the right direction, and then you can recover too, right? You're not a special case, right? You're not special at all, right? You're special as your personality and your soul, but other than that, you're not special. You got the same um, hardware as everybody else. You just got to update the software. That's your only job. Just stick to it. Don't give up. You'll get there.
I love it. So don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll leave all of Helmut's details so you can get in touch with him and leave us any questions that you have in the comments or any ideas for videos. We always want to hear from you. And yeah, thank you so much.
Bye.